Today I am going to start with morphology of flowering plants. In this context, we will discuss about morphology of root, stem, leaves, flowers and fruits. So let's start with introduction. What is plant morphology? Plant morphology is a branch of botany which deals with the study of external forms and features of different plant organs like root, stem, leaves, flowers, seed and fruits, etc. Morphological characteristics play a significant role in both the identification and classification of plants. So, the plant body of a typical angiosperm consists of a main axis which may be branched or unbranched. The plant axis is differentiated into root system, which is underground, and shoot system, which is aerial or above the ground, which consists of leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. The various parts of plant having distinct morphology and specific functions are called organs. So the organs are divided into two parts, the vegetative part and the reproductive part. So the vegetative parts are root, stem and leaves, which play important role in nourishment and anchoring the plant. The reproductive parts are flowers, fruits and seeds, which needed for multiplication and continuity of species. So here is the typical angiospermic plant. The different parts of plant and their functions are described briefly. So we will start with root. The main function of root is to absorb water and minerals from the soil. Then stem. The stem is the main axis of the plant which bear almost all organs like leaf, fruits, flowers, etc. Then leaf. The leaf is the main photosynthetic organ. Then flower. Flower is the reproductive organ which contains sepals, petals, androecium and gynoecium for the reproductive purpose. Then fruit. Fruit is the fertilized ovary which protect the seeds and carry out pollination. Now we will discuss about morphology of root. In this we will study about structure and functions of root, types of root and their modifications. So what is root? The root is generally non-green, underground, positively geotrophic, that is moved towards the soil, positively hydrotrophic, that is moved towards the water, negatively phototrophic, that is moved away from light, descending cylindrical axis of plant body which develops from the radicle of germinating seeds or embryo. It is without node, internode, leaves, buds, flowers and fruits. So the main function of root is absorption of water and minerals from the soil. It helps in plant anchoring to the soil, that is fixing of plant to the soil, and it also helps in preventing the soil erosion by holding the soil particles. Structure of root. A typical root can be differentiated into four regions: root cap or calyptra, meristematic zone, zone of elongation and zone of maturation or zone of differentiation. The root cap region. At the apex of root is present a smooth cap-shaped protective structure called root cap. It secretes mucilage that subtends the passage of growing root through the layer of soil. Generally, simple root cap is present in most of the flowering plants, but in pandanus, that is screw pine, multiple root cap is present. In aquatic plants, for example, Pistia, Iconia, lemna, root pocket is present instead of root cap. Then growing point or meristematic zone. It is also called zone of cell division and is small, about 1 millimeter, just next to root cap. The cells are thin-walled with no intercellular spaces. It is the essential part of root as cells here actively divide and adds growth to the root. Then zone of elongation. This zone consists of elongated cells situated just behind the growing point, that is meristematic zone. It is about 1 to 10 millimeter in length. Cells of this region lose power of division, become elongated with large central vacuole filled with cell sap. These cells develop themselves to absorb water and minerals from the soils. Then zone of maturation or zone of differentiation. This region is 1 to 6 centimeter long, consisting of mature differentiated cells. Outer layer of the cells of root developed into unicellular hair-like structure which is called root hairs. The root hairs increase the surface area of the root for absorption of mineral salts and water. Types of root system. There are mainly two types of root system present in plants, that is tap roots and adventitious root. So we will discuss about taproot system and their modification. So what is taproot? On germination of seed, the radicle elongates into the primary root or true root or taproot, which is the main root throughout the life of the plants and grow straight downwardly in the soil. The taproot is persistent and produce lateral roots such as secondary roots, tertiary roots. The taproots and its branches constitute the taproot system. The lateral roots arise in acropetal succession, that is, younger roots towards the apex and older roots towards the base. So, the dicotyledonous roots are the example of taproot system. Modification of taproot. Normally, root perform the normal functions. If the root perform other than normal function, then it is called modification. So, in this modification of taproot, we have various categories. First, storage of food. So, if a root is modified for storage of food, then it is going to be little swollen because stored food is there present. The primary root is swollen due to stored food in it, and the secondary roots remain thin. So depending upon the shape, the storage or fleshy taproot is of 4 types, that is fusiform taproot, conical taproot, napiform taproot and tuberous taproot. First, fusiform taproot. So in fusiform roots, we can see the base is little narrow, then it is widened in middle and tapered towards the tip. Sometimes we find some very fine hair-like branches arising from the taproot. For example, radish. The radish is swollen because it storing the food, so this is the part which we eat. Second, the conical taproot. Conical taproot, the base is white and gradually tapers towards the tip. Root is not visible, only leafy part is visible to us. For example, carrot. Third is napiform taproot. Such a root swells extraordinarily at its base and in the middle and has spherical and bell-shaped appearance. It becomes abruptly narrower towards the apical region. For example, beetroot, turnip, etc. Then tuberous taproot. These are thick, fleshy for food storage and look like tuber. They do not possess any definite shape. For example, root of 4 o'clock plant. Nodulated or tuberculated taproot. Leguminous plant, for example, pea, gram, groundnut, soybean, etc. bear small nodule-like swellings. These swellings are called root nodules or tubercles that contain nitrogen-fixing bacteria, that is Rhizobium leguminosarum. So these bacteria fix nitrogen in anaerobic condition, that is in absence of oxygen. Next is respiratory root. In marshy area, the soil is waterlogged, so water goes into each and every possible space, including air space. So there is no oxygen available for roots to breathe. Marshy area plants have their normal roots from which a lateral branch is arising from the primary root, and at certain place from these lateral branches arising a conical structure called pneumatophores. On these pneumatophores are present some openings, and through this opening these roots would take air. These openings or pores are called pneumatothores or lenticels. As the main root is waterlogged, there is no air space left, so there is no oxygen to these roots to breathe. So from this opening, gaseous exchange would take place. So here is the taproot is modified for taking oxygen. That's why we are calling it modification for respiration. For example, mangrove plant like Rhizophora. Reproductive root. The reproductive roots are very irregular in shape and root bears some buds. So these buds give rise to another root, and this root give rise to another plant. So on the parent plant, on the parent root, there would be tiny roots and they grow from these buds. So here the root is help in reproduction. For example, sesame. Next is adventitious root system. So what is adventitious root? The root which are produced from any other part of the plant except the radicle are called adventitious root. Such parts of the plant may be hypocotyl, base of stem, nodes of stem, etc. So adventitious root and their branches constitute the adventitious root system. So adventitious root system is mainly found in monocotyledonous plant. So in monocotyledonous plant, the taproot is short-lived and soon replaced by adventitious root. Then modification of adventitious root. So the modification of adventitious root occurs for food storage, for mechanical support, for other vital functions. So first we discuss about modification of adventitious root for food storage. Sometimes the adventitious root gets swollen and become thick due to storage of food. Depending upon their shape and place of swellings, these roots can be classified into following categories. First, tuberous root. This becomes fleshy and tuberous as a result of food storage. For example, sweet potato. Next is fasciculated roots. These roots are produced from one place forming a tuft or cluster. For example, dahlia. In dahlia, the cluster of modified adventitious roots are formed at the base of the stem. So next is moniliform roots or beaded roots. The roots is swollen at regular intervals, imparting bead-like appearance of necklace. For example, Momordica, Vitis, spinac and Pamete. These roots are so thickened that they give the appearance of palm of human hand. For example, orchids. Then nodulous root. Roots are swollen only near the tip. For example, turmeric. Annulated root formed by a number of swollen discs placed one above another, giving a series of ring-like outgrowth or swelling. For example, syphilis. Modification of root for mechanical support. These roots are going to provide an additional support to the existing plant. First, the prop root or pillar root. The prop root or pillar adventitious root develop from the large horizontal branches, hang downward and finally enter the soil, thus giving pillar-like appearance. For example, banyan tree. In banyan tree, the branches are very thick, so there are roots arise from the stem. So we are called them adventitious root, and they are going to grow towards the soil, and when they touch the soil, there is secondary growth will take place in this root, and they also become tall pillar-like, so they are supporting the main branch. Second is stilt root or brass root. This develops obliquely from the basal node of the stem near the soil and grow downward into the soil, providing mechanical support to the plant like ropes or poles. For example, sugarcane. So in sugarcane plant, from lower nodes there would be obliquely developing roots, and these roots would again penetrate into the soil and would provide extra support to the thin slender stem. Buttress root. The buttress roots are found lower part of the stem and they grow flat. For example, peepal tree. In this case, the base of main trunk will be find many flat structure which are on the ground parallel. Climbing root. The climbing roots would help the plant to climb. So here the stem is not that much strong to hold the plant upright. So there would be some structure required for the plant to climb up the support. For example, money plant tree. In money plant, the stem is delicate and slender, and there are distinct nodes and internodes are present. So on one node we find a leaf growing, and on the other side there is a slender structure, and other node again a leaf growing and a slender structure. This slender structure are actually climbing roots. The fifth one is floating roots. These roots are spongy, store air and arise from the node. They help in the gas exchange. For example, Jasiya. Modification for vital functions. So first, assimilatory roots. Assimilatory roots means the roots perform photosynthesis. So it has green pigments to absorb light, that is chlorophyll. As these roots absorb light, so these roots should be above the ground. So they are aerial. For example, trappa. In trappa, the little portion of stem is visible and the root are arise from stem and they grow on the surface. The second one is parasitic roots or hosterial roots. For example, Coscuta. These are depend on the host plant for food and water. So the hosteria or roots of Coscuta plant penetrate into the host plant. That is, only vascular tissue part penetrate up to the vascular tissue of the host plant, and it absorbs water from xylem of the host plant, and it absorbs food directly from the phloem of the host plant. That means there is a direct connection between vascular tissue of hosteria and host plant. The third one is epiphytic root. The epiphytic roots are found in epiphytes. The epiphytes are the plant that grow on the branches of tall trees. Because they are on the branches of tall trees, they are away from soil or not attached to the soil. So they need to absorb atmospheric moisture. So they have special type of root, and in this root there is a special tissue called velamen tissue which helps the root to absorb moisture. As they are able to absorb moisture from atmosphere, they are also known as hygroscopic roots. For example, Vanda. That's all. Thank you.